A seemingly ordinary express shipment concealed a chilling secret. In January 2007, at a shipping company in Qingdao, a suspicious cardboard box arrived. When employees opened it, the sight before them made everyone break into a cold sweat. Inside was part of a human body. What horrific truth was hidden behind this package containing a body part? On the afternoon of January 7, 2007, the owner of the shipping company, Jiang Ming, faced an unsettling situation. That morning, a truck from Guangzhou delivered a package. Normally, warehouse staff would contact the shipping company or the recipient based on the information on the waybill to arrange for the pickup. However, this time, the package caught attention. It was a cardboard box measuring approximately 80 centimeters by 50 centimeters, with no distinguishing marks or designs. The waybill listed the recipient as Song Daewon, the contents as medicine, and instructed the recipient to pick it up themselves. The name Song Daewon seemed unusual to Jiang Ming and the staff. According to the waybill, they reached out to Song Daewon, but the person who answered was a woman from Inner Mongolia. She insisted that she wasn't in Qingdao, didn't know anyone named Song Daewon, and denied that the package from Guangzhou belonged to her. As time passed, the unclaimed package became a growing burden on Jiang Ming and his employees. The dark red liquid leaking from the torn box, combined with the unbearable stench, only added to the dread. At 4 p.m., fearing the contents might be spoiled, the staff decided to open the box. Upon opening it, they were horrified. Amidst the disarray, there was part of a man's body. Jiang Ming immediately called the police to report this shocking discovery. Who was the victim? Why was this person killed in such a brutal way? A wave of speculation and rumors began to spread. The Qingdao Criminal Investigation Team quickly formed a special task force, focusing on the details of the waybill. However, the information from the shipping company was limited. They only knew that the package had been sent from Guangzhou on January 4, 2007, with the recipient listed as Song Daewon and the contents as medicine. There was no sender's name. The sender had purchased 30 yuan in insurance for the package, declaring its value at 10,000 yuan. The waybill had some suspicious elements. The name Song Daewon seemed to have been altered, and the writing was not continuous. The traces of erasure and edits suggested that the original name was Song Dekwai, but for some reason, the sender had changed it. Aside from a few contact numbers, there was no other way to reach the recipient. The police dialed the phone number on the waybill, but the response was identical to the previous one. The woman denied knowing Song Daewon, had never been to Qingdao, and was not related to the package. She seemed frustrated with the repeated inquiries. Based on this, the police concluded that the woman was likely not involved in the case, but they decided to cooperate with the Inner Mongolian police for further investigation. The results showed that she had lived in Inner Mongolia for a long time, had never left the area, was an ordinary citizen, and had no connections to Qingdao, Guangzhou, or anywhere else. The police ruled her out as a suspect. At the same time, the task force began investigating the victim's identity. There was no identifying information in the box, but the coroner confirmed that the victim was male and had died approximately 3 to 5 days earlier. The police found several items in the box: a playing card, a pack of Yichi cigarettes, a disposable lighter, a local Guangzhou newspaper, 2 women's shirts, bedding, and a few miscellaneous items. Whether these items were intentionally left by the killer or accidentally mixed in remains a mystery. What raised the most questions was, whose were the 2 women's shirts? From here, the task force decided to travel to Guangzhou for a deeper investigation into this mysterious package. On the morning of January 8th, they arrived in Guangzhou and immediately went to the shipping company in the Nanwan district to review the footage of the package being sent. However, when they met with the person in charge, his response was a cold shower. The automatic camera system records and stores footage but deletes it after a certain period. Without immediate action, the video could disappear in just 2 hours. This was the only lead to clarify the situation. Upon review, the footage from January 4th showed a man, about 1.7 meters tall, of average build, wearing a brown shirt and carrying a briefcase, entering the shipping company to send a large wooden box. After completing the process, he quickly left. The task force interrogated the staff who handled the shipment, particularly the evening shift on January 4th, but none of them had any special recollections. The staff only remembered that the man was in a hurry and asked if the package could be sent to Shanghai. When told it would take several days to reach Shanghai, he immediately asked if it could be sent to Qingdao instead. Once assured that it could be done, he quickly completed the paperwork, sending the package listed as medicine to Qingdao, with insurance of 30 yuan for a declared value of 10,000 yuan. After contacting the management of the industrial park where the shipping company was located, the task force obtained the surveillance footage from that night. Upon analysis, they discovered that at 6:15 p.m. on January 4th, the man got out of a taxi, stopped at the delivery office, and brought 3 cardboard boxes into the shipping company. About 15 minutes later, he walked out carrying 2 of the boxes and continued on his way. Then, he and the 2 boxes vanished from the camera's view. Based on the clues in the man's behavior, the task force suspected that the remaining 2 boxes contained parts of the victim's body, and the man did not head toward the main gate, but instead toward other shipping companies within the industrial park. Given the size of the park, which had around 200 shipping companies, narrowing down the list to 100 companies that might have received these boxes was a significant challenge. With the help of the Guangzhou police, they examined the companies and ruled out those not involved, while searching for any recipients under the name Song Dayuan. The investigation faced many obstacles. Many companies operated in shifts, and staff working later shifts were unaware of the previous shift's activities. Records were disorganized, and many shipments were not logged. Some companies had no cameras or had malfunctioning cameras. After several setbacks, on the 4th day, the task force found a record from one company listing a recipient named Song Dequai, similar to the name on the box in Qingdao, with matching handwriting. The contact information for Song Dequai perfectly matched that on the box in Qingdao. They quickly found another shipment under the name Song Dequai at another shipping company. By the 8th day, the suspicious man's shipping records were finally uncovered. According to the logs, at 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m. on January 4th, he made shipments at 3 different shipping companies with destinations including Qingdao, Zhangjiagang, and Beijing. The companies in Beijing and Qingdao received the packages, but no one showed up to pick them up. The remaining box was sent to Zhangjiagang. When the matter was reported, that evening, the police in Beijing and Zhangjiagang intercepted the boxes and confirmed they contained the remaining parts of the victim's body. However, the victim's identity remained a mystery. Although the body parts had been collected, the fact that they were found at 3 different locations made identifying the victim more difficult. This was an extremely challenging task, especially since the murder occurred in Guangzhou, a densely populated city with many people from other places working there, with few contacts to their families. Even when relatives reported someone missing, the chances of filing a report in a different province were low, making cross-referencing with missing person data nearly impossible. Therefore, the task force shifted focus to the items in the box in Qingdao to search for clues. They traced the origin of the items and discovered that the newspaper inside was dated December 30th, 2006. The task force contacted the publisher of the newspaper, hoping to narrow down the search, but the newspaper had a wide distribution and didn't lead to any valuable clues. The Yiqi cigarette pack was a local brand priced at 3 to 4 yuan, which could have belonged to the victim or the killer, but it was more likely that it belonged to someone from the lower income group in Guangzhou. The lighter had the engraving, Yuexu Electronic Market, Guangzhou. The task force visited stores selling these lighters, showing a reconstructed portrait of the victim to the shop owners, but no one recognized him. They also checked the labels on the bedding and clothes in the box to determine where they were produced and sold. But after multiple investigations, there were still no significant results. Despite repeated failures, the task force felt they were getting closer to the truth. From the lighter, they determined that the person of interest might be located in the Yuexu area, not the Baiyun district where the shipping company was based. The previously reviewed surveillance footage became an important clue. They re-examined it repeatedly, but due to the distance and blurry images, identifying the suspect was difficult. The taxi carrying the suspect was a light green Kia with the windows covered so the license plate was not visible. However, after several hours of checking, the task force discovered a key feature. The advertisement on the roof of the car had 4 characters, which could be the name of the taxi company, Linsha. Collaborating with the Guangzhou police, they gathered street surveillance footage, but no additional clues about the taxi were found. The task force set up a checkpoint on the road and searched for cars with similar advertisements to track the suspect. As they checked, they began to gather valuable information. Usually, taxi advertisements had 1 or 2 characters, so only a few companies in Guangzhou had 4 character names. From this, they identified a taxi company with red lettering on its cars. Contacting this company, the police learned that they had 297 cars, about 100 of which had GPS. By checking the routes, the task force discovered that 2 cars had entered the Baiyun Industrial Park on the evening of January 4th. The 2 drivers were summoned. One driver said he didn't enter the park, just dropped the passenger at the gate, and the passenger wasn't carrying a box. The other driver admitted to entering the industrial park and confirmed that the passenger was carrying a cardboard box. According to the second driver, around 5:30 p.m. on January 4th, while driving through the old residential area of Yuangang Village, a woman waved for a ride. He stopped and picked up a female passenger carrying 3 cardboard boxes, accompanied by a man. They requested to go to a shipping company. The man was about 30 years old, 1.75 meters tall, and of average build. The woman was around 40, under 1.6 meters tall, and somewhat chubby. The two seemed to know each other, but hardly spoke during the ride. They left a strong impression, especially the man, who wore sunglasses despite the darkness. The woman sat in the front seat, familiar with the streets of Guangzhou, and asked to take smaller roads instead of the main ones to get there faster. Upon reaching the industrial park, she got out at the gate, while the man requested to stop in front of a shipping company, paid the fare, grabbed the 3 boxes, and left. Comparing the driver's description with the woman's image from the camera at the gate of the industrial park, by the evening of January 11th, the police began investigating around Yuangang Village, reviewing area surveillance footage and screening suspects. However, initially, no one matched the description. Did the suspect flee after committing the crime? With this in mind, the task force began Phase 2, interrogating the residential management staff and related authorities while revisiting the cameras inside and outside the industrial park to identify the suspect. At that point, a resident reported that on the 6th floor of the residential building, there was a woman who rented a room that resembled the woman in the camera footage. They only knew her last name was Feng and had no further personal details, but they often saw a man visiting her. The task force immediately went to the address and arrested the suspect. Upon searching the apartment, they found several boxes similar to the one in the case. The woman was identified as Feng Yan, 42, a resident of Yuangang Village. Initially, she denied any involvement, but when confronted with the evidence found in her home, she changed her story and revealed that the man who accompanied her was Chen Tao, 32, a resident of a nearby area. During the search, the police discovered several bloodstains in the living room, bedroom, and bathroom. The coroner confirmed that the blood matched the victim, Li Jianbao, a man who had worked in Guangzhou for over 10 years and accumulated a large sum of money. In early 2006, Feng Yan met Li Jianbao and quickly became romantically involved. However, in March of the same year, she met Chen Tao, a young, tall, and impressive employee at a shipping company. By the end of 2006, they were living together. From then on, Feng Yan avoided Li Jianbao, coldly rejecting him every time he sought her out. Li Jianbao tried multiple times to reconnect with her, hoping to reignite their relationship, but was rejected outright, leading to heated arguments. On January 4th, 2007, Li Jianbao went to see Feng Yan and asked one last time about the possibility of reconciling. When she refused, he became angry, pushed her down, and strangled her. Chen Tao, who was in the bathroom at the time and witnessed the altercation, rushed out and pushed Li Jianbao down. Both men subdued him and used a wire to strangle him to death. Handling the body became a major issue. Chen Tao, drawing on his experience in logistics, suggested dismembering the body and sending it via express delivery, as unclaimed packages are typically handled centrally and are difficult to detect. However, they did not anticipate the police's investigative capabilities. From a small clue, the police traced the case from Qingdao to Guangzhou, uncovering the entire truth. The 2 murderers paid a heavy price. Both were convicted of murder and accomplice charges, but there was debate over who was the mastermind. Their relationship fell apart after their arrest, and both sought to avoid the death penalty by pleading for leniency. According to the law, cases involving romantic relationships are treated differently from crimes that pose severe social harm. In this case, since the murder involved a personal conflict between the victim and the perpetrator, the court considered a severe but potentially mitigated sentence. Chinese law also has an offense for desecrating a corpse, but in this murder case, dismembering the body to evade investigation was not treated as a separate charge. Instead, it was considered an aggravating circumstance in the murder case. Whether the death penalty would apply depended on the consequences, the level of brutality, and the social impact. Despite being a case involving romance and one death, if the actions were particularly severe, the perpetrators could still face the death penalty. In this case, the victim had attacked Feng Yan, so there was some fault on his part. The Guangzhou Intermediate Court sentenced Feng Yan to death with a 2-year reprieve and lifetime deprivation of political rights. Chen Tao was sentenced to life imprisonment with lifetime deprivation of political rights. The case stemmed from an affair, and when people cross moral boundaries, everything becomes uncontrollable, leading to an irreversible tragedy. The case involving the package with the body ended, and Feng Yan and Chen Tao received their just punishment. They thought dismembering the body and sending it off would allow them to escape justice, but it was that very act that became the key to their capture.